All right. You know, when the evidence piles up, when the evidence piles to a point where you can no longer ignore the direction that it leads, I don't understand how so many folks will just sit there and say, I'm going to sit here and deny what I know to be true. The NSA has been eavesdropping on Google and Yahoo users and AOL users and Gmail users and Facebook users. And as this stuff has been revealed by Snowden, they keep saying, you know, in some cases they admit that they've been pressured, but in other cases they say, we didn't do that. And I don't know whether I'm inclined to believe them across the board or whether some of their protestations are legitimate. I mean, I get it. If they've been given, but here's the problem. The FISA court goes to them and says, here's a warrant for us to be able to tap into those lines. Oh, and by the way, it's stapled together with a gag order that prohibits you from talking about it. That kind of level of secrecy, folks, is fascism in action. This article here says some of this stuff that's going on in these data centers sounds like something pulled out of a Robert Ludlum spy thriller. And it's right. He's right. How on earth, the companies are asking, did the NSA get their data without them knowing about it? Well, the truth is that most internet data travels across fiber optic cables that are handled by about 3 or 4 big companies. Verizon Communications, the BT Group, Vodafone, Level 3 Communications, AT&T, so forth. These companies are the internet backbone providers. In other words, all your local internet providers, you know, your local telephone company that provides you with DSL services and so forth and so on, your local cable company, whoever is providing you internet service. All of that information gets routed back to their local transfer switch, if you will. I'm going to simplify this because it's too complicated to get into in real great detail, and you don't need to know the idiosyncrasies of how one IP packet transfers over. But what you do need to know is this. At some point, think of it like a highway. You know, little back roads ultimately get to the highway, and then the highway is what you get on to go long distances. And the highways are owned by Level 3 Communications, Verizon, AT&T, BT Group, Vodafone. If they can tap into the highway, eventually they can get all the cars. Every car hits the highway at some point. It's the same concept with Obama and the Obamacare program. Everybody's got to tap into the healthcare system at some point. So if we own healthcare, we've got unlimited access to everybody. The internet companies actually transfer this information from these local internet service providers, into these massive data backbone pipes. And I got to tell you, the level of security that's associated with that is very, very tight in terms of, you know, you can't just go to a data center and walk in and say, hi, I'm here. I'd like to check it out. I mean, we're talking about, you know, fingerprint technology and iris recognition technology just to get through the doors. These are deeply held secrets by these corporations who do this for a profit. The problem is that in many cases, it appears that the NSA and the FBI are actually tapping in by going to some place where they've got a data center that is adjacent to where these physical cables run and physically tapping into the cables. You know what the problem is with that? It's illegal. And no rationale or justification from any FISA court and no warrant and no gag order can make it legal. Thomas Jefferson said to us when he talked about the principles of nullification that the Constitution was built with the idea that any power that was exercised outside of that Constitution was null and void on its face. In other words, any law that you pass that exceeds the Constitution boundaries imposed on government as a lockdown, as a chain, as a cage to hold government in its place are null and void on their face. A government can pass the law, but it doesn't make it legitimate. It doesn't make it legal. It doesn't make it right. And it doesn't have any authority. Now, if you rented an office space next to a Verizon data pipe or a level 3 communications facility, and you tapped into their fiber optic lines, you would go to prison for the remainder of your natural life. Why? Because it's a crime. So how is it not a crime just because government does it? Justify that. To keep you safe? So what you're saying is the ends justify the means. In Machiavellian style, it's okay to break the law to protect you. Really? Justify that. Explain it to me. Help me understand how doing evil will result in good. Can you? I didn't think so. So what you're saying is that it's okay for us to break the law because we can't get Congress to act fast enough to strip your protections away from the Bill of Rights. So what we're going to do is we're going to break the law so that we can protect you anyway. If you really believe that, you're far more gullible than I would give you credit for. You really think all of this is about protecting you, keeping America safe. Keeping America safe from whom? The real domestic terrorists here are not somebody who wafted in over the skies in an extended overstayed visa. It's not some guy who came crawling across the border from Mexico. It's not somebody who snuck into the country. The real domestic terrorists right here are in Washington, D.C. They're in your local FBI office. They are in your local fusion center. They're the ones who are putting up the cameras and the microphones to monitor you everywhere you go. They're the ones who were soft-pedaling some knuckle-headed idiot over at CNN to write an article about how wonderful facial recognition is and how much you're going to benefit because you don't have to carry money anymore or slide that pesky credit card that's so heavy and weighty you don't want to carry it anymore. Now all you got to do is blink your eye at the cash register and whammo, you can walk out with a shirt. Please. I mean, how gullible are you? Well, the government would never do anything to hurt us. Really? Well, tell that to the 50 million people who are about to lose their health insurance plan so that 30 million could be covered. And then give me the mathematical equation that makes that legitimate. You know, the whole premise here is so skewed. You're told that 2 plus 2 equals 7. And without going back and sitting down and taking the simple mathematical equation and saying, let's see, 2 and 2, okay, I guess that's 7. Really? You know, your government has been working to spy on you for decades now. There was a system years ago that was exposed. It's created by the FBI. There was actually two systems. One was called Carnivore. And when the word came out that Carnivore was listening in on all the conversations of Americans, everybody flipped out. But it was tamped down because you were told that if you believed in Carnivore, that you were actually some, tinfoil-hatted crazy. But it turned out Carnivore was legitimate. Then they came out with something called Echelon. And everybody said, come on. Why would our government do that? Well, their plans don't align with yours. That's why. Their plan is for you to be enslaved and subjugated so that you become the livestock, the calm, the cud-chewing livestock that will walk straight into the slaughterhouse without question, without concern, without causing a ruckus. Not the literal slaughterhouse. Don't you get it? You're food. You are the crops and the livestock for government farmers and government ranchers. They feed on you. They enrich themselves on you. They want you compliant. They don't want you to be causing a ruckus. You've been domesticated. You're no longer a wild animal. And you're funneled into a chute. And then you got idiots like this jerk over there at CNN who are telling you, when you get to the end of this chute, boy, have we got a great surprise for you. Oh, really? What kind of a good surprise is it? Oh, what kind of a good surprise is it? Thump. It's the sound of the 22 right between your eyes. In the 1960s, the government was utilizing these programs, allegedly to tap into Soviet Union and enemies, China. Yeah, that's right. Lest we forget, Soviet Russia and China were enemies back in the 60s, into the 70s, and well into the 80s. And then we decided, well, let's not call them an enemy because they make such good electronics. Maybe we should just start buying everything from them. And then the Russians said, well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this thing called glasnost. We'll open our markets up just a little bit, and you guys stop bankrupting us, and we'll all get along fine. We won. We won against the Soviet Union. We broke their back financially, economically. And then what did we do? We pulled defeat out of the jaws of victory. We're doing the same thing right now with Iran. What brought them to the negotiating table? The economic sanctions. So what do? We lift the economic sanctions and cut a deal that allows them to still continue to enrich. Tell me how that benefits you. Tell me how that makes the world safer. Well, it pushes it down the road a few months before. Have we not learned the rule of kicking the can down the road? The end result is never what you wanted it to be. Is it any different than the debt debacle? We've been kicking that can down the road for, 50, 75 years. Meanwhile, the enemy grows stronger while we sit around and fund it. In 2002, after Carnivore was exposed and Echelon was finally exposed, and by the way, don't believe for a moment that Echelon was only used on foreign agents. The way Echelon worked is the same way that it works today. The systems that were in place then are the same systems that are in place now, just leaps and bounds technologically ahead of where they were. And the programs are the same. We monitor the British monitor the Australians monitor the U.S., and then we just keep switching the data. And that way everybody's got plausible deniability and say, listen, we're not doing that. We're not monitoring Americans. The British are. And then they give us the data. And in this case, now they've switched it around a little bit. Now they've said, well, all right, so the NSA has a mandate only for international. Okay, great. So guess what? Hey, you guys over there in the FBI, tell you what, you monitor Americans because you've got a domestic claim, and just send us the info. In 2002, John Poindexter, who was the national security advisor under Ronald Reagan, he proposed something called the Total Information Awareness System. Total Information Awareness. What does that sound like to you? It was intended to scan the entire planet's electronic information. Phone calls, email systems, financial records, all of your travel records, your credit card transactions, all of your financial transactions. Then this article here in the New York Times says, but the effort was scrapped in 2003 after public outcry of potential privacy violations. No, it wasn't. They just changed the name. It's never been scrapped. It's the same program. It's now called PRISM. Goes on to say in the next paragraph, the technologies Mr. Poindexter proposed are similar to what became reality years later in the NSA surveillance programs like PRISM and Bull Run. It's not similar. They're the same. They just never stopped. They may have told you they stopped, but that's like believing that North Korea and Iran tell us when they stopped synthesizing plutonium that we should believe that. You think they really did? Well, if they did, then how is it North Korea actually has a bomb? The truth is that when your government is willing to use illegal activity allegedly to protect you, you have to question the entire motive behind their argument. If it's designed to protect you, then why do they have to go about doing it in an illegal fashion? Why must they tap in to a fiber optic cable they have no ownership in and surreptitiously capture your information? Why must they do it with facial recognition from afar? Why must they do it by getting you to willfully waive your rights and input your most private information into a website, coerced by the point of a gun, couched to you as law? Do you not see the irony in that? Do you not see the fallacy in that? Do you not see the treason in that? This is your government that is forcing you at the point of a gun to divulge your private information, or is surreptitiously sneaking into your bedroom and stealing your most private diary. Explain to me how that benefits you. Explain to me, justify, rationalize how that improves your life. You can't. And neither can they. And all protestations to the contrary are nothing more than marketing and hype. And they've got the mainstream media and the press out there promoting their position rather than actually calling on Americans to say, you guys better stand up and take this government back, or you're going to end up resulting in slavery and tyranny like you have never seen on the planet before. This fascist government is working to make the Nazis look like a couple of punks. This government is going to make Chairman Mao's great purge look like a couple of punks bothering kids in the playground. No government has ever had the kind of capability, the technological ability to track and monitor its... And I'm telling you, China, Iran, they don't even have this level of governmental surveillance over their citizens. And they're already tyrannical. Tell me, please explain to me. Show me I'm wrong. Tell me where this government's going to have access to that kind of data and not misuse it. Give me some documented empirical proof. Show me the reason. There isn't one. There isn't one. You're going to try and tell me that evil and the application, the physical application of an evil act can result in good. You call yourself a person of faith? Show me that justification anywhere in any religion. Show me that justification in any aspect of any preaching, any teaching, any Bible, any Quran, anything. Show me where it says that. Show me where that is a philosophy that you can bank on. Show me where that's a philosophy that will actually promote and improve and qualify and quantify things so that your life is improved. Show me that you trust men to the point where you will give them your most intimate information and assume, because they say so, that they're not going to use it against you. Show me where the old adage that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely is completely wrong. Show me in one example where that's been proven not to be true. Show me one, please. Every dictator in power does the same thing. What, because they're American, they won't? Why? They're still humans, and human nature is what human nature is. Greedy, dirty, filthy, rotten. You see, it takes a certain person, a certain kind of mentality, a certain psychopathic desire to be in power, to be yearning for the ability to rule others. And when you talk about politics, that poisonous cream always rises to the top. Why are governments corrupt? Because corrupt people rise to that occasion. Non-corrupt people, they go out and they run a business. They work in their community to feed the starving or run an adoption center. Don't you see that the evil congregates to the evil? People who go to Washington not because they've got some do-gooder gene that you don't have. They've got some gene that you don't have that's called ego. It's a failing, not a benefit. The truth is, everything that is happening around you today, and I grant you it's moving fast. but everything that is happening around you should be setting off klaxon alarm bells in your mind. You know, Level 3 recently put out a statement. They're one of the biggest. They actually dwarf AT&T and Verizon and some of the other backbone carriers. And they have not directly responded to the inquiries about whether they've given the NSA the information voluntarily, or if the agency's, the agency has gotten a FISA court ruling against them. Here's what they did say in their statement. It is our policy and our practice to comply with laws in every country where we operate, and to provide government agencies access to customer data only when we are compelled to do so by the laws in the country where the data is located. Boy, that's an awful big loophole. In fact, I think you could drive the state of Maine through that loophole. And the proof is that in their financial filing later on, they noted at, and they buried this way in the back of a financial filing. Here's the the statement of guilt. We are party to an agreement with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Justice, and Defense addressing the U.S. government's national security and law enforcement concerns. This agreement imposes significant requirements on us related to information storage and management, traffic management, physical, logistical, logical, and network security arrangements, personnel screening and training, and other matters. That's as open a confession as, yes, Mommy, I stole the cookie. I'm going to read it to you again. We are party to an agreement with the U.S. Departments of Homeland Security, Justice, and Defense addressing the U.S. government's national security and law enforcement concerns. This agreement imposes significant requirements on us related to information storage and management, traffic management, physical, logical, and network security arrangements, personnel screening and training, and other matters. Do you realize how much is covered by that statement? We're party to an agreement with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which has no international purview. So right off the bat, when you read between the lines, that tells you this is about capturing data on U.S. domestic citizens. The Justice and Defense Departments. Justice, and here's where the clue comes. An agreement with U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Justice and Defense, addressing the U.S. government's, listen to this, national security and law enforcement concerns. They're separating the word national security and law enforcement because they are two different things. Law enforcement applies to you domestically. National security applies to somebody coming in here who wants to make a dirty bomb. The agreement imposes significant requirements on us related to information storage and management. Yeah, that's that cloud stuff you keep hearing about. That's all your data being stored in the cloud. Well, the cloud is a wide open book. You wouldn't keep your most personal diary on Facebook, would you? Thinking you're the only one who can read it? Traffic management. Who's got what traffic going where? And how do we tap in? Physical, logical, and network security arrangements. That means that basically the Department of Homeland Security, Justice, and Defense have the keys to the safe deposit box. personnel screening and training and other matters. So what that tells you is that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Justice, and Defense can insert employees into their operation, get training from them, receive training from them, and do the training of the agents to make sure that they understand how their system operates so that they can make maximum use of the taps. The article goes on to say, security experts say that regardless of whether Level 3's participation is voluntary or not, recent NSA disclosures make clear that even when internet giants like Google and Yahoo do not hand over data, the NSA and their intelligence partners can simply gather their data downstream. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that if the NSA is doing what is, for all intents and purposes, espionage on American citizens, and this isn't all about trying to figure Abdul over there in small cave Afghanistan. Trust me. The simple truth is they are pining for your data. And the reason they want your data is because it enables them to have power over you. And that kind of power over you can never be used for your benefit. And that is treason. You're listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about 80 million Americans who are going to lose their insurance, how you've been bait and switched by Obama like a used car salesman, and in line with the rest of this theme for today, the topic of data, because that's what this system really is. It is a command and control data collection system. It is a mechanism for gaining more data mining information on you. We'll be right back.